Welcome Linux enthusiast. This is the 16th episode of our Linux learning series. If you have missed any of our previous episodes, then here is the playlist above. In this video, we'll be talking about how to collect the logs and how do you see the metrics for the Linux machine. If you are looking to upskill in Linux and get globally recognized certificates, then you can check out our DevOps course. The link is given below in the description box. Alright, so now let's start the video. Alright, so now let's talk about how do you see the logs of any services. In the previous chapter, we looked into how do you manage the services and how do you start a service or stop a service or how do you reload it. But now let's talk about loggings, which is very important component of a Linux in terms of services or in terms of whatever the things application softwares which are running on the Linux machine. You should have capabilities, you should be aware about how do you see the logs, because without logs it's nowhere you try to troubleshoot any issues. Without logs it will not help you. So that's why the logs are always being captured on the Linux machine, whatever the actions that we perform. And then there are utilities that you can use in order to read those logs. For example, journalctl is the command which can help you to see the logs. Then syslog is another things. So we will talk about the differences between journalctl or syslog. How do they store the logs? How do they read the logs? How do they show up the logs on the UI? And how do you make the changes in terms of that? So in the PPT, you can see there are commands, for example, journalctl, journalctl-b. So you can see there are various options. These options you will also get in the man command. Manually, when you open man journalctl, then it will give you all the manual options for the journalctl commands. And then there are various options that you can look for, and then you can, based on that, you can just make changes and then you can read the logs. But logs are very important in terms of when I say, whatever the service is doing, you should be able to justify or identify what is happening under the hood. Then using syslogs, it is telling the commands that will be common, useful for syslogs. Then when you start a service, when you stop a service, that time logs generates. Or how do you generate a temporary logs? For example, one-liner logs or two-liner logs. You can generate by your own. There is a command called logger command. You can generate the logs, test logs. So now let's talk about see the demonstration of these logs and how on the Linux machine, how do you see the logs are being stored and where the logs are there and how do you read those. So let's start with the manual of journalctl. Okay. So when you open this journalctl manual, it will say the utility journalctl about. So it basically prints the log entry from the systemd journal. Okay. So and then there are various fields in this command which you can use as an option, and then you can print out the information that you would want to do. Okay. So let's start reading the logs, and then slowly you will get an understanding about what is happening. So let's execute command journalctl. Okay. So now you can see this. Since 13th of August last year, this system was in the running state, which means it was boot up at the time. So this log, what you're seeing is since the beginning when this OS was built up on this machine. So it is telling you the Linux was boot up on the physical CPU and information about the images, the BIOS systems and stuff. So when you use this arrow keyword, you will see it's what it is listing in the as a less command that it does, right? So you can just use a bottom arrow to scroll down in the logs. So it will give you information about anything about the logs. Or let's say you want to search SSH, so you can say / and then search SSH. So you remember while performing the actions on the SSH, we try to create the keys as well, public keys, in order to authenticate via keys. So at that time, your public key was stored in this. So all the responses that we got in that SSH also being stored in the journals. So you can see the public key here. Multiple times the keys were created. or service was stopped and started. So all the logs, whatever it's there, you can just see it up here. All right, so this is the journalctl utility, but now it's not just if you execute journalctl, it will not help because it will start from the beginning, all the logs will listing it out. So, but yeah, the use case for us would be a little different, where we want a variety of a log, a chunk of a log from a particular time frame or for a particular user or for a particular service, not just all the logs, kernel level logs or boot logs, right? So let's start using some options and see what does it do. So for example, you want to store the output or you want to list in the short format of the output of journalctl. So you can use option output and then short. So this will give you a little shorter than what journalctl command gives. So it is still, it feels like a little large or little long. Why? Because the machine was boot up last year and it's like a long time, 5-6 months of logs are there. So that's why you are seeing it. But trust me, this is the shorter version of just the journalctl command, what it does. So you can just read in the manual as well. Option short. So it says that precisely follow precisely this format to print the short logs, right? Output and most identical formatting. So you can format that log, short full also you can use, or short ISO, very similar. So it basically shorts the file. What if you want to, somebody who's good with the JQ, JSON query, and you want output not like in this lines, like how is it currently listed in the form of lines of the logs, one by one. You don't want like that. You want it to be in the JSON file, and then somebody who is good with the JQ command to filter out the data from the JSON. So you can use like this. So journalctl, you can output JSON. So why the use case of this JSON come up? So there are various other applications who are good with fetching the JSON file and then creates a report on top of it. For example, let's say Elasticsearch, or there are a lot of open source tools are also available, where Splunk is also there. So there are a lot of tools which are there who can do manipulations on the log. So what you have to do is, like, you have to export the logs from the Linux machine and then provide the logs to that software via any pipe or channel or whatever, and that channel does some sort of analytics operation on top of it. Let's say, for example, Splunk, you're passing the logs to the Splunk, and then Splunk UI is a very good UI in terms of reading the logs. Or Elasticsearch Kibana you can use, where the logs are being stored in like a good fashion. You can see the logs, you can build the charts on top of it, you can create a dashboard. So there are a variety of tools available just to read the logs. Okay, so Linux machine, see, if you're reading these logs over here, would be a little clumsy sometimes to read the logs, because it's not as clear as whatever it is, because it's so lengthy in any particular line. So it's always good to forward the logs. We will see how do you export the logs, and then into the files, and those files you can import it back to any other tool and it can perform the actions. So one tool I'll be using here, which is JQ. So let's say we would want only for Apache to web services logs to be print. So we can use Apache for any service, let's say, for example, and then we will say JSON only output, print the output into the JSON. Then you can just use command JQ. So I will use the syntax. Whosoever is familiar with the JQ, they can understand this, but somebody who is watching this JQ for the first time, you can just Google it up and see what does the JQ use. It's a utility which can perform the action on top of the JSON based output. So message and then hostname :. Okay, so you can see it appear from the output. That was, see, if we remove this part, let's say, for example, if we just say journalctl -u Apache ubuntu -output JSON. Okay, so see, this is how the log is looking like at this moment, but you don't want all the information. You just want the host name. So for example, you can see this is the host name on which this Apache 2 service is running. So the host name is the local host. If you say host name, this is the machine. It's my local Linux machine, Ubuntu machine, on which we are executing all the services, and Apache 2 is also one of it. So this is the host name. So you want only that host name to be print along with the message, whatever the message you're getting in that output. So you can use JQ and you can filter out the message. So see, it's displaying to you, okay, the Apache 2 service was started and this is the host. If it has an entry for the host, it is able to find out, otherwise it says null. So you can just read through this. It's kind of an easy to filter out, to fetch anything which is in the JSON format. So it's always good to have a variety of output to be prints from the JSON journalctl command. So that is one of the use cases to print the values using journalctl. After that, you want to, let's say, see the logs from the boot time. So you can use -b option. So this will show you the logs from the boot time. Let's say you want to see the logs for any specific service. So you can use command U. So this will only show you the logs for SSH, nothing else. So you can see the service was started and service was stopped. It's listing on this port and whatever. So if the service was killed or something happened, so whenever you will restart the service, you will see a new entry. Okay, this boot happened. After this booting, the service was started automatically, because there might be option for enable the service is there. That's why the service got automatically started, then stopped and stuff. So you can read through logs that belongs to any particular service by using option -u. Okay. Then let's say you want to filter out the logs for a specific time. So how do you do that? So you can use option since. So journalctl, then -since, and then let's say 25, let's say today is 18. Okay. So this will print me the logs starting from January 18th, 0000 time frame. So whatever I did. So let's say you must be seeing here, for example, we performed some cron actions with the user star agile, which basically says create a cron where, you can just use arrow right side and, back and front, so that to go scroll in that later section of the line. So you can see it here that star agile user try to execute a command echo. This is your trainer Himanshu, and then we are putting this output somewhere in this file, so to create a cron job for that. So that's how all kind of logs you want to see, that is easily visible by this -b option. So you can correlate to it. These are the things that we have performed in our previous sessions, where we created cron jobs, we deployed SSH servers, we created Apache 2 servers, and so stuff. So we did all these things. That's why you are seeing all these logs. I have not deleted these logs here. That's why all the previous logs and actions that we have performed here is clearly visible for us to see. So since boot, you can use option -b, and for a particular time frame after that you want to see, then you can see. So let's see today's log or something. So you can see these are the logs which are only for today. So you can just execute that command, give the time frame, and after that it can give you. So let's say if we have date, let's say 11. Okay. So since 11, just like 30 minutes back, it is giving us time logs, whatever we did so far. So we stopped the SSH service, then we started the SSH service and stuff. So we did all these things. You can just read through the logs and understand. After that, you can, between two times, let's say you want to, there is some incident happened on the Linux server and you want to fetch the logs only from 2 time frames. So how do you do that? Using journalctl. So you can use command journalctl and -since, and then let's say 2025 01 10 a.m. until 25 10:30. So there is no entry, which means if there is no logs present, then there won't be any entry for it. So let's say some other time frame if we have it. Okay, it's not there. What if I say 2? Yeah, so from 1st to 2 the logs are present. So it depends, like, a particular time frame it has logs, then it will show it up to you. Let's see if we say 10 to 10:30. Okay, there is no particular entry. No entries. Okay, anyways, this will show up based on a particular time frame it has logs, then it will show up the logs to you. So you can based on the between 2 time frames, 2 2 dates you want to fetch the logs, you can use until and since to get the logs between two time frames. After that, let's talk about some real-time logs. How do you read the real-time logs? So for that you can use journalctl -f. So real time, when I say real time, what does it mean is that whatever will be happening now on to this machine, the logs will be captured and will be shown on the screen, over here. So let's try to execute certain stuff. Let me just refresh this. Okay, so some other things, let me do this. Let me systemctl and let me stop sh service and see what happens. Okay, do we get any logs? Yeah, so you see with -f we are able to capture that. First of all, it says that you went onto a different terminal, okay, and which was PTS/2. This is TTY is nothing but a teletypewriter. So we'll be talking about when we'll be discussing what is shell and how do you identify the, so when we switched our tab to one tab to another tab and execute some command, so it is capturing all the information that you have logged in with user *agile, which we are here. Okay, and this is the teletypewriter value. So let's see if we get that. It's not showing up here. Okay, nobody. So there must be a way to fetch that which basically the terminal you are currently on to, and then this was your present working directory, which is the case here. We were in this directory shell scripting, and then you have executed command /user bin systemctl stop ssh. So systemctl, whenever any command executes, it does have a binary belong to it. So when we talked about the permissions, you remember +X is the executable privileges which is required for any file to execute as a as a command. So that thing we will be discussing in the shell chapter, how to create your own command. That's where it has a binary which executes. So with the help of which command you can just see it. So for example, which systemctl, it will show the binary to you that any command has a file present on the Linux machine /usr bin or systemctl. So this is the location, and you try to execute and stop sh. So you see stopping sh service signal, and service is currently deactivated and stopped successfully. So every message that you are going to perform in terms of any services or any changes in the OS, it will be capturing it up. Let's say test. Okay, let's say your password. I am trying to create a user, and then we will see if it captures the information for the user. Okay, test created, See, changed user test information, adding new user test to supplemental extra group users. So see, we are able to read that information from the logs. So logs are basically helpful if you want to see what has changed. You know, if you are modifying anything, if you are changing anything, you're doing any actions on the user, or creating any command, anything you are doing in the system. So journalctl is the command. You know, you can just look for it, you can just see the logs, and then you can try to identify whatever is happening, the changes on your systems. So that's how you can capture with option -f, okay, the real-time logs. What if only for any specific service you can use like on top of it, okay, only for Apache related logs, give me the real time. So let's say, I'm not sure if we refresh it, that is also being captured, not right. What if I say I stop the Apache service, systemctl stop Apache, okay. So we have stopped the Apache. Now let's try to go back here. Did we get any message? Yes, only for the Apache related we are seeing here. Let me try to delete the user actually. Delete user, let me just remove home. Okay, we have deleted the user test. Now this log will not be captured here, because in this screen we are only capturing the real-time logs which belongs to Apache. So when we stopped the Apache service, we were able to see the message saying that the service is currently stopped and activated successfully. Let me just press enter and then go a little down in the screen, and then let me just restart or start the service. Okay, I've started the Apache 2 and see, now the new log will be generated saying that the service Apache 2 is successfully restarted. So any changes that you are going to do for any service, you can just print out a log belong to that service with using option -u and then service, and then -f is for the real-time logs. You can read through that. Okay. After that, what if you want to read the kernel related logs? So you can use /k. This will only print kernel related logs to you, which is only belongs to kernel, whatever the kernel is doing on a Linux machine. So it'll be printing all that logs to you. So it will be like, you can use option you can use D. So this D keyboard key will just help you to pass on so quick, so that you can just read through. You don't have to just press enter and then use the arrow key. Rather than that, you can use D as a keyboard key. It'll be like shortly showing up to you, passing the logs. Yeah, so only kernel related logs are present on this machine. So you can just see, if you can try to understand, you know, so it says Himanshu's iPhone camera. So it is basically capturing whatever the actions that I'm doing on my Mac. It is capturing that as a kernel, whatever it belongs to the kernel, because whenever we add up any other devices on this machine, let's say any machine, right? So any Linux machine, you add a device, external hard disk or camera or, you know, keyboard or mouse or whatever, it will be detected as, you know, who detects it? It's what the kernel, you know, these are the hardwares which we are external hardwares that we have added in our systems, and that hardware is being identified by the kernel, and then kernel has the files which stores that information, and then it does the actions, whatever. It captures the you know, camera actions or keyboard actions or mouse actions or whatever, right? So it is able to capture the device and stuff for you. So you can just see the logs like this for the kernel. What if you want to see the logs for user? So you can use so this is the current user logs you will see here, -user command. So this will be only for the current users. You can see logs. You can just list down whatever this user is gonna do. You will be able to see that. You know. So these are the actions this user did so far on this machine. So you can use this. Okay. After that, let's talk about some advanced level of commands. You want to filter the priority levels in the log. So how do you do that? So for that you can use command journalctl. -p is uses for the priority, and then you can pass on the priority level that you want to see the logs for. So level 7, level 5, you can just capture the logs, and then you can see only the higher priority logs don't show me any other type of log. So you can see that journalctl. Okay, so this is the option that you can use here, /-p priority. Okay, so this is the option, basically filters out the message priority or the priority ranges. Okay, 7 level is the debug, 6 is the information, or alert messages or error message. Let's say error priority is 3, so you want to only print 3. So this will only give you the error related logs, it will not give you anything else. So if you scroll down, you will see only errors that you are basically do. So let's do one thing, let's try to do like this, and then we will mask a service and then try to restart it, that we checked in the last series chapter, which when we try to stop a service while it was masked, so it was creating a problem. So let's say sudo systemctl masking sh. Okay, now start. Okay, this is the error message we got. Let's see if it is able to capture that. Did not capture it here. Nothing as such. Okay. Okay, maybe it did not provide this information to us, but it will basically print out all the messages that are relevant for the kernel to print out in terms of errors. So then let's check priority. Okay, let's check about warnings or info level messages. So let's say alert, incorrect password. Yeah, so all alert messages are like, for example, we try to log into a user where we are executing any commands which is not existing. So those are the messages. So that is a criteria of individual priorities defined already. So those logs will be stored in that priority level. If you're expecting an error to show up in the critical priority, it will not show up like that, right? So every particular log, so this log error, whatever we are getting here, might be in some other priority, which is not visible in the error priority or something else. So that is also a case where you can just see every priority has, so this is the information log, it will not give you the error or anything warnings. So these are the priorities that you can check out, all these priority logs, and then you can try to find out which belongs to whatever the actions that is happening on the Linux machine. So priority, if the priority matches, then it basically gives you that particular logs to find out. Okay, now what if you want to search any keyword? So that we have already used grep command. Let's say ssh. It will give me only SSH related logs, it will not fetch anything else. Let me SSH. Okay, let's try to see this. Okay, stopped SSH service. System mask. So now we just started the service. It's able to capture that information. Okay, the service was started at 11:59. So it gives you only related to service. So you can fetch whatever the keyword that you would want to do. So with usage of grab command, so you can use any filters. You can just grab it. The logs belongs to what. So any options that you can use, and then on top of it you can grab. Or let's say for usage that how many lines are there for today's logs only for SSH, or overall you can just fetch like this. These are number of lines, or let's say I want to see from today only for SSH how many lines are there. So you can just use like this. 88 lines are there in overall. So this will help you in that way. For example, you are exporting the logs and then sending it to some other tool, right? So that tool says, okay, these are the log lines that I have got, but in the system there are 88 lines, and tool says I got 60 lines. So there might be chances that 28 lines are somewhere in the middle. Either they have not successfully exported or something is missing, right? So in that case, you can try to identify the commands that you can use on top of journalctl. So it supports, that's how the usual Linux is, the functionality of it. Okay. After that, let's say you want to limit the number of lines. So you can limit like this, -n and then 100. It will only give you 100 lines. So here you can see 100 divided by 100, which means the overall lines are automatically being done. So last 100 lines it will give you like this. Okay. Okay. See, so with just journalctl, I was trying to find out that masking thing that we tried here. We masked a service and we got this error and stuff, right? So it says that you did try at 11:55. Current time is what, 12? So just 5-10 minutes back. Yeah, we did execute that, and then after that we basically unmasked the service as well. So it's captured everything. So last 100 lines, it basically has that entry somewhat, but maybe some other priority contains that entry. That's why you're not seeing in the debug messages. But yeah, overall, if you execute journalctl, it definitely shows up that actions that user is basically trying to do. So you can just read the last 100 lines via option -n and then 100. If you want to export that, let's say I just want to export. First, let me go here in the home directory, and then let's say if I want to export last 100 lines only which SSH is there. I want to export this into a file. So we have seen this before also when we were talking about different redirections in the Linux systems. So we used single redirection and double redirection. So let's say I would mark it like this, SSH, and then say if it does like this, logs or something, Let's see if it does. Yeah, SSH logs. It has created a folder, SSH logs, and then if you read SSH logs, you will be able to see the content, whatever we exported in this command, right? So you can just, or I want the output of not SSH, let's say masking, or let's say Apache 2. Also append to the same logs. So you can just read through that. So you will see the Apache logs are also present, and after that SSH logs is also present. So you can use single redirection, double redirection, whatever the facility is present. So you can just export the logs to any file that you would want to by using redirections method. After that, if you want to clear the logs, you can use -vacuum -size. So this will reduce the logs for you. It will basically delete, but just as a precaution, I'm just saying that whenever you try to execute these commands, make sure you have a backup. If it is a legitimate machine. If it's your testing machine, it's fine. You can just trim the logs and then it's okay. But if it is a server, it's never recommendable directly to execute these commands, because there are chances that previous something happened and then you want to trace down what has happened in the beginning, in before, so you won't be able to do that because you are executing this command without taking any backup. So it's always recommendable to take a backup before executing, trimming the logs or reducing the log size or whatnot, right? So it's always recommended to do that. But this is a command to reduce it to 100 MB, or let's say you want to say to system that I want to delete the logs for 10 days. So you can use like this 10. So basically this command will delete all the older logs which are older than 10 days. Only logs, if so currently what is the date, let's say 20th January. So the logs only from 10 to 20th will be visible over here, but not before than that. So you can delete all the logs 10 days old. So you can just make any changes like this. Or if there is any other option to journalctl, you can look for in the manual. So yeah, vacuum size you can use like this. Remove the oldest archival. It accepts KB, MB and GB and terabyte suffix to base the 1024. Then time period also, like days, weeks, months and years, you can trim down like this. So it accepts various of options or arguments that you would want to vacuum the size. You can just do based on the requirements or the use case, you can use that. So that is how basically, you know, it will trim down the logs for you. Yeah. Now if we talk about so that is like journalctl. When we'll be discussing about the comparison of both, that time we will be seeing see journalctl fetch. So it's a utility which fetches the logs, which means the logs are somewhere written on the machine. Okay, there must be files where the logs are present, and then journalctl is just basically reading the files and then fetching the logs for you. But I would say that to you, the journalctl, the files which are present, which has the logs, those are the binary files. If you try to read those files, you'll be looking up in little short. So those files are binary files. It's not like just cat command you can execute and read those and content and find it out. It's not the way it should be. So journalctl automatically does that functionality for you, reading from the binary and then printing the logs, whatever it's there on the screen. So the advantage of using that, because journalctl it's very fast in terms of searching, you know, and it's very optimal. So that's why it uses that functionality. We'll be seeing that in a bit short. But let's see first how does syslog work and how do you see the logs for syslog. It's another utility to capture the logs. So you can just use syslog. So for example, like for syslog, there is a command, tail command and head command that we have already discussed. So tail -f will give you where log, you know, all the real-time logs. So you want to see any logs. Usually syslog logs are present in where logs folder. So that where logs, let's say syslog. So it is printing you all the lines which are there currently in the syslog. So if you want to, let's say if you want to cat it, so you can just do this, where log syslog. So syslog logs are usually present in where log syslog. So those are everything contains related to syslog. So all these entries you want to see. And there are other directories if you look at where logs, right? So you will see, for example, authentication logs, you know, init fail logs, dpkg logs, which are the package manager, Ubuntu Advantage, syslog, SSSD, journal. So all these has files or directories, Apache 2. So Apache 2 also contains the log syslogs, which has access logs and error logs. So for example, let's say I want to tail down where log Apache 2 and let's say access logs. So this will give me whenever you access the Apache server, right? So for example, use case I'm telling. So let's go to my Firefox and let's refresh that same page, and you will see a new entry will be automatically being come up here. So these are you can just think like a firewall logs. That's how the access logs are also being written in the same way. So which has the source IP address, then there might be some destination IP address and stuff here, then timestamp, then method, HTTP method, which is get, then the path of that HTTP method slash, there is no path, the website is directly available there. HTTP one-on-one, it's like which HTTP are you using, 1.1 or 1.2. So and then status code 200 means you successfully able to retrieve the page information for you. Then there might be some bytes information, and then this is the user agent. Which tool did you use in order to fetch the data? So let's say if this is Firefox, you are currently seeing Mozilla, right? What if I use curl utility? So let's say curl -v, this is what, okay. So this is also giving me the same output 200, okay. And here you must see one more entry come up automatically, right? So this is using some IPv6, not IPv4, internally local, and this is using user agent called curl, which means some other utility curl is trying to get the page for you, and this page is slash, and then this is the user agent. So see, this is how the advantage of reading the log. So in the real-time scenarios, if I talk about for example, how do you troubleshoot a user wants to access facebook.com or some other .com website, right? And for the user, the page is not loading. Might be a chances that the proxy or firewall is blocking the user, okay, or some other issue, whitelisting issues or anything else. But another user in the same network is able to load the page. So how do you identify, or how do you troubleshoot? Let's say a customer says, I'm unable to load the page, or it's not working for me via these utilities. So these are the logs which will be present in the access folders or error folders. So all the errors logs will be in the error folder for Apache 2, and access logs are present in the access folders. So similarly for other utilities, in Nginx also, or SSH also, any other utilities also has a syslogs to capture the access logs and the error logs. So this can help you instead of 200, okay, if you're getting some other error. So let's say let's try to stop the service, okay, systemctl stop Apache 2, okay. I've stopped the Apache 2. Let's try to capture if we are able to do that. Page is not loading. Now let's see what happens. It's not capturing anything because this access log. What if you see error log? Sorry. Say, okay. So you are seeing that it says it's shutting down something. Something we are trying to. We have shut down the service or something. It's able to capture that information. So what if, let me restart it. Start it. And then, okay, service is started. It's resumed back to the normal operations. And let's just stop it again. Systemctl stop Apache 2. Before that, we will access something. Stop it, and then again try to. If we go it here, so it will show you the Apache error log saying that the service is shut down. After that, nothing is going to capture. See, why after shutdown it's unable to capture? Because the socket itself is not open, which means on the user try to access anything, the socket is like, you can think like you are making a connection to a website, but that socket it's closed for you. That port number 80 is closed for you. It is not serving anything to you. So no logs will also be captured. So logs are being captured by what? Only by the services only. Like for example, SSH or Apache. So Apache 2 daemon itself is capturing these logs, error logs or access logs. If we shut down the daemon completely, after that it will not be able to capture the logs also. So you can think like every service or a daemon also has a capability to capture the logs parallel to its what it serves. For example, website, so it serves website, along with it parallelly it stores the log while people are executing or using that website. So until you start it, it will not be capturing anything for you. So any logs that you would want to read or see, the service should be up and running. If the service itself is dead, then there is no point to capture the logs. You will not be able to see anything. So that's how you can read the logs, Apache 2 or anything else, whatever is present here. Let's see if SSH is not there. It's okay. Okay, so how do you read the kernel level logs here? So tail-f where logs. Then there is a file called kernel.log. So this also stores the kernel related logs to you. See, journalctl is so easy because it just gives the option -k. After that, it will print you the kernel related logs. But in syslogs, it stores this information in plain text files. So these are the log files we are reading. Currently you can just think like tail. We can do cat also. So it's reading the plain text information from the logs. But journalctl is not doing the same thing. It does not read the text information. It converts the binary to a readable format for the user and then prints it for us. So when we will see the background of from where the files are present for journalctl, and then we will see, oh, these are the binary files. But syslogs it's basically stores the log in the plain text format. So whenever you store a logs in plain text, it is not compressed as it should be. So it is consuming the storage for the servers also. So that's the reason journalctl is very much advantageous, because how long and how often you can store the text logs, because those are not feasible to, your storage is, let's say, 100 TB, out of which 20 TB is just capturing for the logs. So that is, and what if you can convert those plain text into binary format, and then you reduce further from 20 TB to, let's say, 10 TB or 5 TB. So it's kind of, you can just use that remaining 15 TB of storage for the other services and stuff. So that's the reason always advantage to use journalctl. But yeah, it's good to know about syslogs as well. How does syslogs being captured? So the difference I'm telling you, syslog basically stores the logs into text format, but journalctl stores the logs into binary, and then it uses the utility journalctl to pull the journal logs for you. Okay. Now after this kernel logs, let's try to see the authentication logs. So where logs. So everything related to syslog is just under the where logs. If somebody asks you how do you see the logs in Linux systems, you can say journalctl, or you can say syslogs, and syslogs majority of times stores the logs in the where log until you change that configurations, syslog service configuration. So these are the logs, authentication logs, if anything happened to the user or some sessions is open. So let's say, let me try to authenticate some other user. Just trying to see. Yeah. So when I opened a session from here, I have